Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by eBay Motors Group, with Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson, bringing you all the chatter that matters.
Now, Phil, I know you don't get out much, so you wouldn't have seen any 23 plates yet, would you?
I haven't, but I will be doing this. Well, I will be doing because my Sarah gets her new car. So yeah, I will be. I'll be driving a new 23 plate. And
But by the time this goes out?
Possibly, maybe not. Plug-in hybrid Cougar. So I'll have a
Very
play
nice.
and let you know next week what a plug-in hybrid Cougar is like.
And what it's like to drive a 23 plate car?
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So have you seen, you're out and about a little bit more than I am. What
I
have you
have
seen?
been out and about, but haven't seen any new ones yet. But I mean, the coverage over the past few days, because it was only the first on Wednesday on social media, has been really, really good. I mean, a lot of dealers have actually taken to LinkedIn and Twitter to promote what they've been doing for the unveiling of the new plate, and also some of the activities the night before. And there's a good piece in Car Dealer, which the reports on Sitner doing a midnight handover, which, I mean, I remember writing
those
about
days.
those,
I
and you
remember the
you
days
remember
myself.
being there, don't you?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that was you'd get the whole team and you'd do a bit of an evening and stay over. And to be fair, it's back in them days, you'd actually have beers and wines in the showroom. I mean, it was a bit odd, really, that you were handing over new cars and celebrating with a buffet and drinks. But yeah, that was very odd. But I'm not, it's great that we are seeing some of these midnight handovers because it's kind of back to that celebration of a new plate, which has probably lost its way through the years.
Yeah, exactly. It's making an event of it, and I mean, interesting to see that what Sytner were doing, because it was a Jaguar Land Rover site that was doing it. And yes, there are glasses on the table, but I suspect there's soft drinks that are accompanying them. But and then it's great because there's pictures of the staff, there's pictures of customers, and it just creates a bit of a buzz, doesn't it? And it's such an important time of the year.
But don't forget, with the long lead times with some of these cars, some of these people would have been waiting a long time
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
this new car. They'd have been waiting a year or more for some of these cars,
Yeah.
because there is still such lead times there in the market of over 12 months for some new vehicle products. So it's a big celebration. And I did notice our friend, and if you've not listened to that interview, go back and have a listen to that interview with John O'Hanlon from Wayland's. He put a fantastic feed out this week. I think it was on LinkedIn about he'd got a new Kia handed up and it had been dropped off at his house and in his garage before the 1st of March, and he was really excited. He said it was like opening up the Christmas Day morning, opening his garage door to have this this Kia sat there ready for him to drive. Yeah, the new 6, I think it was.
And there has been plenty of coverage, as you'd expect, from the media this week about the new plates. And AM's coverage was kind of a bit more measured, because they're talking to Peter Smythe, who obviously welcomes the plate change, but he does point out that a lot of the potential volumes will be mitigated by logistics issues, and he says, I think we've reached a stage where there aren't enough ships and lorries to get the cars to us. So highlighting a operational challenge there.
Yeah, I like the picture on the car dealer. You see the one with the Welsh plates and the leeks and the Welsh cakes on the table, because it was obviously happy St David's Day as well this week. So they were celebrating the St David's Day as well as the new plate week at one of the showrooms there. But you're right. I think this thing about the new plate now is there's a lot happening in the sector. There's the days where everybody came down to the showrooms to collect the car. Now you've got to drop those cars off, haven't you?
Yes,
Because some of these people would be requiring a home delivery. So I think it'll be interesting to see what this month does look like when we get to the end of the March month.
So shout outs this week, Derren Martin, we interviewed him during the week. So Derren's the Director of Valuations at CAP HBI, and he gave us the rundown on the February editorial covering used car value trends over the course of the month. So we'll have an extract of that in today's show, but the full interview is available on your podcast feed. And Stephen Whitton joins us for the second half for his latest Men-able moment. So do stay tuned for that.
Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by eBay Motors Group.
So headlines this week are from AM Online, Car Dealer, and Sky News, plus an extract from our chat with CAP HBI's Derren Martin. And staying with used cars, we'll look at how the government's new EU Windsor framework could actually help resolve VAT issues faced by dealers in Northern Ireland. We'll ask, are drivers leasing new electric cars being overcharged by hundreds of pounds as claimed by a Clean Transport group? And finally this week, we'll look at how online retailer Genesis is now set to build a UK dealer network. So next up, we're going to hear from Derren Martin, Director of Valuations at CAP HBI, talking about some of the trends that he picked up and identified over the course of February.
Let's get straight into what's been happening then. So let's start off by looking at that benchmark 3-year 60 figure for February going into the month of March. What was the result, and what can you tell us about that result?
Yeah, so the benchmark 3-year 60 figures, a 1% increase, which is about £100. And so there's been strength certainly across ICE vehicles. So petrol and diesel have performed well. The older you get, and the sort of the cheaper end, has been further strength. So at 10 years, 100,000 miles, it's a 2% increase. So it's been relatively healthy across the board, really, as I say, on petrol and diesel cars. If you look at that 1%, if you exclude alternative fuels, it's a 1.3% increase, which is very strong for the month. So we've only surpassed that 1% figure twice in the last sort of 15 years for February. One of those was in 2009, when the market was recovering from the drops of 2008. And the other February was 2020, actually, before we went into COVID, where there was a 1.1% increase. So it's been a relatively strong month. That is led by demand being good, because dealers didn't stock up dramatically in December for January and February, so they've been out buying stock again. And also, there's still not an abundance of stock out there, so there's they're having to pay top dollar almost for the cars that are out there to be able to purchase. And
as you say there, that 1%, including obviously all the challenges that exist within the sort of particularly the battery electric vehicle market, it's a high month, and that takes the year to date just slightly down at 0.4%, which as a seasonal average, that's still a strong first quarter of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been good, as I say. So both January and February have performed well. I guess with the first quarter, you're talking sort of monthly figures, which takes into account December. So when you're looking at live, the 2 months that we have been through have both seen small increases. So since we came back after Christmas, it's been relatively strong. Certainly after that sort of first maybe week or so in January, where the market was just sort of finding its feet. But since then, spoken to a lot of dealers who are all doing pretty well. So yeah, and have been back out there stocking, certainly for as I say, ICE vehicles. So yeah, it's been good. And February, if anything, was stronger than January. So it's been very healthy.
And in terms of vehicle sectors, Derren, which sectors stood out in terms of some of the rises and falls that you saw in February?
The two that probably stand out the most, if you're looking at sectors, are City Car and Super Mini. So they've gone up City Car's gone up by 2.3%, Super Mini's by 1.9%, which is on average about £175. So it's that sort of cheaper end of the market, which all the dealers are telling us is healthy for them. You can stock a couple of city cars for an SUV, can't you, and sell them easier as well. So that with cost of living concerns, people maybe needing to have a car because of the rail strikes, or we kind of do sometimes forget that a car is a necessity purchase, and sometimes it's at that bottom end. So those cheaper ones have performed the best by way of sector. As I mentioned earlier, by fuel type, it's very much petrol and diesel rather than alternative fuels, with electric struggling by the most. Although I would say there's some green shoots there. But yeah, it's mainly at that cheaper end. But once you get everything, when you look at it by price band, anything up to 30,000 has seen a small average increase. So obviously there's lots of moving parts within that. And as we always say, the devil's in the detail. But overall, petrol and diesel cars stronger at the bottom end, but even up to sort of 30k have seen a small increase.
I think that's very much steady as she goes, isn't it, Phil, in terms of what drove the market in February in terms of used car values?
Yeah, I mean it's all a split market now with your combustion engines compared to your what's happening in the particularly the plug-in, the battery electric vehicle market now with everything going on in that space. So again, as Derren says every time we chat with him lately, it's the devil's in the detail now, and there's a lot going on. But yeah, if you do, we would suggest, as always, have a listen to the complete interview there with Derren that will be on your podcast feed and available to listen to.
Yeah, definitely, because he did have a lot to say about consumer demand over the course of the month, and also importantly in the full interview, his views on how the next few weeks could pan out.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll head over to AM Online now, and this is on the back of obviously what's been going on in terms of the Northern Ireland and EU position. But the header is that UK government's EU Windsor framework deal to protect NI, Northern Ireland's second-hand car market. Now, this is all about the VAT on the used car market that's been going on over in Northern Ireland there. And obviously there are some significant UK players over there with Lookers, Trustford and Sytners that have got a big presence in Northern Ireland, and there is quite a lot of import-export of used cars in the wholesale market between the two markets as well. So this is a very significant outcome for that place.
Yeah, it just adds some welcome clarity to what's going on in terms of the treatment of VAT on used vehicles in Northern Ireland that have been imported from Great Britain. So we actually covered this at the time, and it does date back to, it's 2 years ago, January 2021. So under the post-Brexit EU VAT rules, the sale price of a significant proportion of used vehicles in Northern Ireland would have been subject to a 20% increase for stock purchased in Great Britain. So under that agreement in January 2021, the VAT margin scheme reinstated by the UK government enabled dealers to pay VAT based on the profit earned from the resale of those goods rather than the entire value of the goods. So this gives some sort of welcome clarification, and it's interesting that the NFD, the National Franchise Dealers Association, says it's encouraged by the confirmation, but it will be studying the minutiae in the documentation.
Yes.
Before saying anything else.
Yeah, and as you say there, it's nice that the used car market got a mention in Parliament because it was stated that in the speech that was delivered in Parliament that it protects Northern Ireland and the second-hand car market into the future, with the new scheme to take effect 1st of May 2023, ending 2 years of uncertainty for traders and consumers. So this is a bit of a breakthrough into it, and a little bit of clarity as well, as to protect those Northern Ireland dealers of what's going on over there.
You're listening to All the Chatter That Matters on Motor Trade Radio, powered by eBay Motors Group. This is your weekly one-stop shop for all the biggest car retailing headlines from across the media, available on demand wherever you are on your podcast feed. Next up is our latest Menable moment, looking at mental health and well-being awareness, issues and best practices across the automotive sector with me, Stephen Whitton. Yeah, hi guys, Menable moments time again. Hope you're all well and everything's going okay. Still can't believe how quickly this year is whizzing past. I keep saying that, but it's true, isn't it? Anyway, do you know what personality type you are? Do you know where you are on, say, a DISC profile or Myers-Briggs or one of those other types of personality profiling tools? How'd they make you feel when you do them? Is it an interesting exercise? Anyway, I've been doing a fair bit of work on those recently, and I always find it fascinating to see the different personality types that we have around us. Now, in previous life, prior to Menable days, I became a DISC accredited practitioner, and DISC is the profiling tool that measures us as either dominant, influence, steady or compliant. Now, we are all a mix of all four, and our score is a bit like a sort of fingerprint, really. It's a bit like our unique profile. So it's not aimed at stereotyping or putting someone in a box. And just because your highest score is one particular area, it doesn't mean that's what you are all the time. We can dip in and out of the different personality types. But it's fascinating to see how the different personality types and behaviours play off against each other and how those behaviours play out on a day-to-day basis. So just very quickly, dominance is about drive and determination and results and outcomes. Influence is about using relationships and about energy and enthusiasm, creativity. Steadiness is also about relationships with others, but that personality type likes a very sort of steady, stable kind of approach. And compliance is all about analytical views and sort of measurement, spreadsheets, process, logic, that kind of stuff. So as I say, we are all a mix of all four, and you'll probably recognise some bits of you and your behaviours in all of those as well. Now, for all the upsides of all of those behaviours, there are some downsides as well. And for example, in my case, being a high I am full of energy, full of enthusiasm, full of optimism, exuberant, and it's that exuberance that can actually also lead to the downside of my personality trait, which occasionally leads me to do, say, or put something in place that I kind of regret fairly quickly afterwards, or get picked up on by other people or whatever it might be. So that's the up and down of being a high I, and the other personality traits all have their own ups and downs as well. Now, the key bit in all of that I talk about when we work with teams on this is about adapting and flexing as a result of, one, knowing yourself, and two, knowing others. So at the start of this, I said, do you know what your personality type is? Because if you're a manager or a leader, it would be very easy to manage your business and your part of the business in the way that fits with your personality type, and to also then manage other people in the way you like to be treated. Now, there's an old saying, to treat people the way that you want to be treated. And I actually think that's wrong. Because if you think about this personality profiling exercise, it's better to treat people the way they want to be treated. Because if you are a very strong individual and your personality profile type really stands out and you treat everyone in that way, you run the risk of alienating 75% of the people around you. So the exercise really is about understanding yourself, understanding others, then being able to adapt and flex. And as I said, some personality traits find that easier to do than others, and it is something that is a constant work in progress. So, but it's a fascinating subject. The other side of it, of course, which links to what I'm doing now with Menable, is that each of those personality traits or types will approach the subject of mental health and well-being in a way that's very unique to them. And again, it makes it even more important that we treat people the way they want to be treated. So may well be doing some exploration of that over the coming weeks, so look out for that. And if it gets your interest and you want to know a bit more, you know how to contact me, stephen.whitton@menable.org, or check out what we're doing over on LinkedIn. But yeah, you are surrounded by a whole mixed bag of personalities and personality types across your business. And just take some time to observe and see what's happening. And as I said, don't forget that flexing bit, which is the most important. So, take it easy. Have a good couple of weeks, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye.
Well, many thanks to Stephen there for another engaging Menable moment. And interesting what he was saying there about it's better to treat people the way they want to be treated. That's it's an interesting way to view it, and sort of contrary to I guess, popular belief.
Yeah, no, definitely food for thought there, as always, from Stephen. So thanks again for doing that. So, controversial debate this week between in the media, particularly the national media that have picked up on the leasing sector around battery electric vehicles, and this was picked up quite widely across the as I say, both the nationals and the trade media. And we're heading over to the from a consumer nationals perspective first, and this is Sky News, and the header is that drivers leasing new electric cars being overcharged by hundreds of pounds each month, claims Clean Transport Group. And this is a statement saying that some of the is it the trade and industry? Which one is
It's
it?
the transport and
Transport,
environment. So that's the group T&D.
And they've made a statement saying that on average, leasing an EV car is 51% more expensive. And we'll talk about the consumer story first, and then we'll head over to Fleet News and get the BVLA's reaction to this statement as well.
Yeah, so I'll play bad cop on this. You can play good cop. So yeah, you're right. Sky News. This did actually get a lot of coverage earlier on in the week, and there was quite a bit of coverage and response to it. But the Sky News report. So as you say, it's based on this campaign group, and they did some research of 2.7 million used car prices in Europe's biggest market. So that included the UK, and T&E, this campaign group, claims that residual values are being assumed by leasing companies are not in line with the market data that they researched. And as you said, they found that battery electric vehicles are on average 51% more expensive than their petrol counterparts. And that's despite analysis suggesting EVs do not go down in value faster than traditionally fueled cars. Well, they might say that, but at the moment, that's exactly what's happening. EVs are coming down a lot faster than petrol vehicles in terms of RVs in the second-hand market. But the examples they use are an electric VW ID3 costing £605 a month, while a petrol VW Golf is offered for £376. And the report goes on to suggest that leasing companies still consider electric cars to be new and uncertain products. That's a direct quote, which is an outdated approach. So that's the case for overcharging. I think you have the counter.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting this week because when I heard it a couple of times on the radio, and they're trying to explain residual value in a consumer market space was seemed to be quite challenging for them for some reason. But yeah, as you say there's a response here that in Fleet News, and this is a direct response from the BVLA, and the header is that fleets overcharged for electric vehicles. BVLA hits back at the T&E claims. Now, this is basically saying that the BVLA, and this is coming from Tony Poston, the BVLA Director of Corporate Affairs, saying that vehicle leasing companies have led the charge in bringing battery electric vehicles to the market. The accusations levelled by T&E show little understanding of how this market operates. like a toddler taking its first steps, the BEV market still needs to support in the form of tax incentives, grants, and marketing campaigns that give fleets and drivers the encouragement they need to take the leap. So, we all know that, the battery electric vehicles are a more expensive new on average than the equivalent combustion engine. And much of the monthly payments are defined by the cost new and the residual value at the back end. And that determines, obviously, the monthly outgoing for the ownership of that vehicle. And as we know, that, the accusations that they put in there, they're obviously not understanding that the residual value end is still fairly risky in terms
Yeah.
of that future used car value. And as if you've listened to the interview this week from Derren Martin, the values are still dropping significantly, and that I think the market, as Derren pointed out on the interview there, has gone up 1% at 3-year 60 point for all fuel types. Yet the battery electric vehicle, the complete the battery electric vehicle market has declined at that same 3-year 60 point by 7.5%. So clearly, the residual value, the leasing companies are right to be cautious about it, because it is still a market that they've entered in early, and there is still areas of risk around that future value. So I think clearly T&E, yes, they've done a lot of research, but they're not really showing understanding of the way
No.
a lease does work in the sector.
Yeah, and bearing in mind that the drops in values that we've seen for used electric vehicles have actually been going on for a number of months. So I don't know when they did their research, but I think you could probably go back to, tail end of last summer to track those falling residual values for EVs, and this isn't factored into their findings whatsoever.
No, it's not, and I think you're right. I mean, the battery electric vehicle sector has been falling for a consecutive of 5 months now, and to be honest, there are some good value battery electric vehicles out there
Yeah.
in the used car market space at the minute, if it suits your charging facility infrastructure around you, either home or destination charging. And in terms of your mileage and driving behaviours as well, there's some fantastic opportunities there for people to get into the used battery electric vehicle market at a very good cost base. So, yeah, I think it's clear that, I mean, always with the automotive sector, and we talk about it a lot, there is a clear lack of understanding in general around what the way the automotive sector does work, and clearly this demonstrates that that T&E are not fully understanding of, one, the leasing sector and how that operates, and two, what's been happening in the market over the last 5 months as well. So clearly, Toby had a good reason to push back at T&E there, and I don't think it's probably finished there yet, but we will see.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth heading over to the Fleet News story, because there's quite a few comments there from Toby at the BVRLA, and worth a longer read. And I notice you're quoted in it as well, Phil.
Yes, I got in there about the Tesla
You made
Cup.
a little cameo appearance.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think, we had the interview there with Steve Young, didn't we, from ICDP about
Yeah.
Tesla, and it was clear that we had to sort of try and always differentiate the Tesla, what they did, away from the rest of the EV market, because everyone was just assuming that what he's done is what everybody does in the EV market, and it's certainly not the case. So yeah, and sticking with EVs, the final story of this week, we're heading back over to Car Dealer. And we've been talking recently about all the new entrants of the Chinese brands and battery electric vehicles. But this week it's been revealed that Genesis reveals plans to create UK dealer network in dramatic switch from purely online sales. So this is the premium EV brand behind Hyundai, or Hyundai, is it? Should I get that right?
Hyundai,
I think
Hyundai,
Hyundai. That's it. I
Hyundai.
get that right, Curtis. You'll be correcting me if I'm not careful with this one again. But yeah, they're saying that Genesis Europe boss says lays out plans to car dealer that the dealer network to be operational at the start of 2024, and that the premium car maker is in discussions with a wide variety of potential dealers. And this is this decision to switch from purely online car sales, and it's not a U-turn, but they will be working with their dealer partners on this.
Yeah, it's a really good piece from James Batchelor, our friend Batch from Car Dealer. I assume he must have been on a Genesis event. There was possibly a launch event, and I know from my past that these were great opportunities to just sit down with the senior people within the OEMs to just generate some sort of off diary stories, not necessarily associated with whichever car was being launched. So I think Batch spent some time with Lawrence Hamilton, who's the managing director of Genesis Europe. So it is a fascinating piece, this, because it does point out that Genesis launched back in 2021 with the brands opening a small number of experience centres in shopping centres, and I mean there's certainly one in London's Westfield, and there was one that opened recently at the newly opened Battersea Power Station. So there's a number of these around the country, and it did launch with that online proposition supported by these studios where customers could go in, they could look at possibly one car and order and go from there. But the company has revealed that it's now on the hunt for potential dealer partners to create a retail network to actually support this studio setup they have at the moment. And it's due to be operational from early next year. And within the interview, Lawrence Hamilton says that the brand is actually talking to existing Hyundai partners in the UK, and but he actually makes it really, really clear that this is phase 2 of Genesis launch plan for Europe, and it is not a U-turn. They're not making it up on the hoof. This was always part of the plan, and the idea is to have a small network of dealers with relatively small premises, but with sufficient after-sales support to actually support what they're doing online.
And they do talk about a mixture of large PLCs and smaller operators, and with a proven track record. So they're clearly looking for those Hyundai dealers and others to work with them and across that sector. And they did get asked around the agency sales and sort of talking when would Genesis be creating agency agreements with dealers for the new showrooms. And he said that there's a comment. It says Hamilton was coy, since I've not seen that in a release for a while. But he does comment and says that we're designing a commercial arrangement around what we need to deliver as a brand. So I won't label it at this stage as agency agreement in the way that I think others may look at it. So obviously there is a partnership here in the way they are looking at it and not confirming whether it is full agency or whether it's going to be kind of this hybrid that more and more operators are now talking about, where there is a partnership between the OEM and the retailer, and not necessarily a complete 100% blueprint of an agency model. So I think it's great that they're moving forward with this. It's great that they're obviously talking to their current network of dealers and looking at PLCs and small operators as well. And as you pointed out there, Curtis, looking at that aftermarket place as well.
Yeah, and as you say, it'll just be good to see new dealerships opening up. If this is the net result of Genesis looking at the bricks and mortar side of their proposition.
Yeah, and the feedback is that they are a nice car as well, so it should support the existing brand very well once they get this going.
Yeah,
So that's it.
Yeah, they certainly look great, don't they?
They do, yeah. I know a couple of people that have got them arriving, I think, and test driving them and things like that. So yeah, they're supposed to be a nice bit of luxury EV kit. But that's it for this week. So as I said right at the start there, please, if you've not listened to the full interview with Derren Martin, that'll be on your podcast feed from this week. Do check that out. A lot of information in there, a lot of not just on what's happened in February, but what's happening at the minute and what he thinks will start to happen as we head through the final weeks of the first quarter of the year. And you've still got the John O'Hanlon interview that I mentioned as well, still on your podcast feed. So fascinating chat with John O'Hanlon, very always upbeat and very positive, and lots going on in his world. So do catch up with that if you've not listened to it already.
But that's all for now. Many thanks for joining us on the Motor Trade Radio podcast. Until next week, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
If you'd like to get in touch with Philip and Curtis, maybe with a press release, or even join them on a show, please send an email to motortraderadio@yahoo.com. You can also join the Motor Trade Radio LinkedIn and Facebook groups, or follow the podcast on Twitter.